Luca is the latest Pixar movie to hit Disney Plus actually this time. It was slated to come out to theaters, but they pulled it and now it's officially on Disney Plus entirely. It is completely free. There's no premium for it. You can watch it anytime you'd like. Luca is the story of a sea monster named Luca who wishes he could be among the human life. He wants to explore it, he wants to see how they tick, so to speak, and his parents are very stern on how he can never leave the ocean and that the human world is a very dangerous world. But one day Luca decides to go more towards the surface and he ends up meeting a new friend named Alberto, who is also a sea monster, but he likes to live more above the sea. He wants to live more with humans and he's had more experience with them, or at least that's what he tells Luca. The two create a strong bond and then end up going into the cities in Italy and decide to join a race so that they can win themselves a Vespa while hiding the fact that they are indeed sea monsters. Luca is an interesting movie, so to speak. Like, the movie was slated to come out in theaters and then they decided to pull it, and I'm not 100% sure why. I believe it was slated to come out in the summer, and while it is the summer, obviously yes, but I assume that it would have been in theaters. But this is Disney's new way of doing business, I guess, so we get to see this movie on Disney Plus for free, and I have to say that there's probably a reason for that in a way. Not to say that this movie's bad. It's fine. It's definitely hard to top Pixar's own movies nowadays. I mean, you have so many great movies beforehand that Pixar kind of can't outdo itself at times. So most of the movies that they make now that are not as good as the first movies that they made years ago seem subpar when they're actually pretty good movies. Yes, so since this is Pixar, you know that you are going to get stellar animation. The voice acting is great. It just looks so real, and the artists that create this CG and the computer generated images for this movie is fantastic. There's no denying this. But with that all being said, sometimes great CG can't save a lot of movies. Thankfully, this movie doesn't need a lot of saving, but it definitely does have its issues, or at least it's not to standard of what a normal Pixar movie would possibly be. The story of two friends that are sea monsters that disguise themselves as humans to explore the human world is an interesting concept nonetheless. And while the script does kind of lend itself to not tell you how these things exactly happen, they don't really care to explore the world of the sea monsters that much outside of Luca's family only, and even then it's not too deep. It's good enough in my opinion. This movie wished it could have explained a little bit more on some of the other stuff. I wish we would have had maybe slightly more backstory on the friend Alberto, but all in all, it's kind of subpar sometimes. And while I do like the themes that this movie brings up about, you know, be who you are and don't be afraid to show yourself and people should accept you for who you are, is all fine and dandy. It just the scripts kind of need to tighten up some issues with continuity. The movie is paced fairly well as well. We kind of go along at a steady pace and we kind of increase every so slightly throughout the entire movie. And I will say that the movie does get its most interesting when Luca and Alberto end up in the city and then they meet up a new friend. It kind of picks up a little bit, and then, you know, it kind of ramps up the intensity a little bit because, you know, Alberto and Luca are trying to, you know, make sure that they stay disguised as humans, and anytime that they get wet, a water droplet hits them, their scales start to show again. So there is a bunch of cute montages with that involving Alberto and Luca trying to hide themselves from the world. The character Julia that they do end up meeting and exploring the city with, and then ends up in the race to defeat the villain that they have, does bring a lot of energy to the movie. But with that, they also have a pretty weak villain as well. This guy is just like a pompous dick. Like, he's just like a preppy guy. And what's strange to me is that this movie is filled with like kids, like, you know, like teenagers, maybe a little less than teenagers, but middle school-esque or slightly younger than that. And this guy, this villain, is like borderline late high school, early adulthood, and it's conveyed very odd. And This is definitely one of the weaker villains that I can think of for a Pixar movie. They didn't do a great job in that aspect of these characters. In the end, I hearken this movie a lot to Soul that came out earlier on within the last 12 months. The movie is good and it's decent enough to carry along its story with some needed fine tuning in between. By no means this is its best work possible, but it is definitely a fine watch. I'm going to give Luca 3 out of 5 stars. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to y'all next time.